The Inquiry News 24 receives hundreds of complaints each week, most of them asking why we can't be more like Vasili's garden. Personally, I would have thought that Vasili would have more things to do with his time than write thousands of letters each week. But we've taken these complaints on board and are happy to introduce our new Greens expert to the program, Adam Bandt. Now, Adam, what's the best time of the year to repot the begonias?
Yeah, you're asking the wrong person. I'm sorry.
Why
about
is that?
Because I tried to grow a rosemary bush and didn't really work out.
Okay.
So I think you're going to have to go to Senator Christine Milne. She's got a gardening blog, which I can plug for you right now.
Right,
yeah.
Are you not our Greens expert?
Sadly not. I'm an expert about the Greens.
Okay.
I'm running for the seat of Melbourne. My name's Adam Bandt. I'm running for the Federal Seat of Melbourne in this election, which is the only seat in the country where the choice is between Labor and Greens.
Right. That's a very good... you've got that down pat. Much better than I could have ever introduced it. Or Vasili, for that matter. Very good. So it's an interesting seat because it is between the Labor and the Greens. Usually, two-party referred, you've got Labor and Liberal. But you're in with a shot.
Yeah, well, I ran last time, and turned it into the country's only seat, where it is between Labor and Greens, and it's so close at the moment that if 1 in 10 people who voted Labor last time come over and vote the Greens this time, we win. The number of people who voted for us in the Senate in the seat vote for me this time, or had voted for me last time, I'd have won last time.
Oh wow, okay. Yeah. But it's quite a big, though, because it's 4.7% swing, isn't it?
That's right.
So it's still a fair. You're the underdog, aren't you?
That's exactly right. I think everyone claims to be the underdog, but we actually are.
Although you ran against, most people would probably know Lindsay Tanner. He was the incumbent, but he's now. So you've probably got even more of an advantage now, don't you?
Yeah. Well, look, the same day that Lindsay Tanner said he wasn't going to run, of course, was the same day that the Prime Minister's changed, and so I think that there's quite a few things going on in the mix there. I think the effect of Lindsay resigning is that there's probably a lot of people who are going to take their first look at us and serious look at us.
Who is this guy saying he might? I'm curious, when it comes down to it, 150 people in the House of Reps. If you win, aren't you going to be a little bit lonely there? Like, who's going to talk? Because you'll be the only Greens member.
Yeah, look,
I think anyone going to talk to you
I might be for the first term of Parliament, but I reckon give it a couple of elections and we'll have a few more Greens there in the lower house. But I mean, we've got people in the Senate, and so I'll be amongst friends.
That's the thing, because we're looking at Greens are probably going to hold the balance of power in the Senate. That's what most people are saying. Yeah. But as a member of the lower house, I'm wondering what effect will you be able to have?
Well, a lot. I mean, in the Senate, to get any laws through, they're going to require the Greens, or at least two parties, working together to get it through. So Labor and the Greens, for example.
That's in the Senate.
That's exactly right. And so I'll be sitting there in the party room with the senators, helping make the decisions about what we're going to be able to do. Right. So there's a real potential there to deliver a lot for Melbourne. But I mean, taking a step back, if you think about the way this whole election's being conducted, it's as if the only voters that matter are those in a handful of marginals in Queensland and New South Wales, and the whole of the national political debate is tailored towards that. And so all the ideas and values that are important to people in Melbourne, like compassion, sustainability and equality, just aren't getting an airing.
Do people vote on compassion, though? Is that really...
So. Look, is that
a hip pocket issue?
The two things that in the seat of Melbourne that people tell me that they're changing their vote from Labor to us. The two reasons most often given are climate change, lack of action around climate change, and Labor's treatment of refugees and beating it up into a political issue.
Maybe Labor's treatment of Kevin Rudd as well.
Yeah, that's a slow burner.
A lack of compassion there. Well, okay, so Greens in the Senate. So I guess you're going to be working with senators, however many there are in the Greens. What are we going to see in change? Because I think that's what, if people are disappointed, the whole idea is if people are disappointed with Labor, they're moving across to the Greens because of issues like climate change, asylum seekers, because people feel like they weren't done justice with those policies. So what are the Greens got to bring to the table? Well,
one of the things that we can do is help to shift the national debate, because as I said, at the moment, it's being conducted over here about who can be the toughest on asylum seekers, or who can censor the internet the best, or who can be the most against gay marriage. All of a sudden, when they realise that seats are going to start changing hands on the basis of other issues, it opens up a whole new front in the political debate. And I mean, I think, yes, the numbers are important, but at the end of the day, ideas are as well. And part of the thing that we're missing at the moment is someone articulating that kind of alternative vision for Australia about what Australia, a sustainable and compassionate Australia could be like. And that's something we could begin to do. And I think that is going to start to turn the ship around.
Because you've got, because this is the problem, was with the climate change, the ETS came up, and the problem was that Greens didn't have the balance of power, so essentially they had to negotiate with the Liberals, didn't it? Which ended up bringing the ETS to kind of just this compromised mess where nobody wanted to
Which
support.
by the end of it, that's right, and at the end of it, all the environment groups and think tanks and so on that at the start of it said, we need an ETS, by the time it finished, that backroom negotiation between the Labor and the Liberals, no one wanted to support it.
So what do the Greens want to do? Like, start first day. What are your actions that you need to?
Well, we want on climate change. We think we need to move as quickly as possible to a zero emissions economy. And the first thing that we could do on the first day, in fact, we've already offered it. It's just the Labor Party won't pick up the phone, but is to look at what Professor Ross Garnaut suggested, which is a carbon tax.
Right.
So it's like a ETS on training wheels, if you like. You have a fixed price for how much pollution costs. You make the polluters start to pay. That money can be used to compensate households for any increase in electricity prices, so that low-income earners aren't out of pocket, and we can start putting the money into renewable energy.
Why is that any better than, say, Tony Abbott's plan to fund all those sorts of things that you want to do, but out of the budget instead of costing?
Well, Tony Abbott doesn't believe climate change exists, and I have no confidence about his so-called direct action plan.
But if he doesn't believe in it, but still does stuff about it, I think politicians do lots of things that they don't believe in. So I'm fine with that as long as he does something. So why is it any better to charge consumers for it?
Because the only thing that's going to make a difference is if across the whole economy and the whole society a price is put on pollution, and the polluters have to pay that price. And then we can then have a discussion about, let's give some of that money in compensation to make sure people aren't hit too hard. Let's give some of it to the renewable energy industries. Unless we do that, there's going to be no incentive across the economy for the polluters to change. They're going to keep on doing what they're doing. Right. Maybe they'll fund some of Tony Abbott's Green Army. Maybe they'll fund a few soil projects here and there. But we're not going to see the kind of cuts that we need.
Okay, I want to talk about asylum seekers. What's on the table there? Because it seems like a bit crazy. Like Labor, maybe you're going to put offshore processing at East Timor. Liberal want it, on Nauru. There's women and children in detention again. Yep. What's the Greens' path forward? Like, what do they see as what?
Well, ideally, this shouldn't be a political issue. We shouldn't be having debates in an election time where the parties feature advertisements, the major parties feature advertisements that have got pictures of boats coming on. Both of them have. It's an outrage. It used to be 30-odd years ago. There used to be an agreement across all the parties about migration policy, and in the years after the Vietnam War, for example, Australia took in 100,000 refugees and their families from Vietnam in the decade after that. Now, having that kind of debate at the moment would almost be unthinkable. And so, but we want to get back to the stage where treatment of refugees and asylum seekers isn't a political issue. And so we reckon the start of that is to say, let's start processing people onshore. And in major cities, don't detain people for longer than is absolutely necessary for health and security reasons, so 30 days at the most, and have people processed near reception centres in major cities so that they got access to the services that they need instead of being put on island or desert prisons.
Sure. Now, this would help us a lot because we're a popular program normally, and we're airing across the country, but not that many people really know about it. So the mainstream media haven't caught on. So would
maybe
you like
you need
to...
a bigger picture of Tony Abbott.
Well, maybe
that would help. I just don't think that one's big and scary
maybe we
enough,
need a big picture of you up here.
Happy about that. I can organise that for you. I'll get you one before the show's
from the Greens
over.
headquarters. Do you have anything offensive you could say? Do you want to just come out with something blatantly like homophobic or racist, or maybe make fun of a mentally ill person? Could you just do that for us to get into the mainstream media? Because people will run this on like ABC News 24, whoever they are.
I can give you Wilson Tuckey's number if you like. I think that's you go and ask him.
Do you want to say something outrageous about Greens policy? What's the most bold thing you can say that's got a... What do you want to say to the people?
The most bold thing that we can say?
Just give me something. I'm desperate here.
we need... several years ago, John F. Kennedy said we need to put someone on the moon within a decade.
Right.
And they had no idea at the start how they were going to get there, other than the political will and technological support, and then they managed to make it happen. And I think that's kind of the stage that we're at now. Scientists are saying we've basically got 10 years or so to turn around, address climate change. Otherwise, we're at enormous risk of runaway climate change and changing life on the planet as we know it, like 10 years. And I think that what we need at the moment is someone like, our Prime Minister should be like a John F. Kennedy, basically saying it's time now to begin not the space race, but how we're going to get this country powered by renewable energy within a decade. And I reckon you start to do that, start to show leadership, that's how we're going to start to change the world.
Could you be that person?
Look, I don't...
Prime Minister Adam Bandt?
Prime Minister Adam Bandt. Look, I think with the
I don't know,
Greens
a
are
bit of a
probably a
revolution.
little while off getting
But you're
there.
young. You could stick around. It took John Howard 20 years and he stuck around for 11.
Yeah, geez, I've never been compared to John Howard before, but thanks for that. I guess there's a first.
Hey, that's okay. Adam Bandt, thanks so much for coming
Thanks
on the
very
program.
much. Appreciate it. Thank you.